What's up, everyone? Welcome to a special year-end episode of Retro Encounter. I am your host, Josh Curry. With me is Chris Gebauer.
Hello.
Mike Sollosi.
Hey, everybody.
And the very special Peter Triezenberg.
It's Rogue One. Thank you very much. No.
Ooh,
okay,
do we just want to talk about Star Wars? I'm cool with that.
I would do a Star Wars podcast, but I feel
We'll just make this a Star Wars podcast.
I think we get
we
in
will
trouble
not.
for that,
No,
to
we
be
will
honest.
Because I also haven't seen it yet, so shut all your faces.
Well,
Shut
let's
them
see.
now.
Knights of the Old Republic is 13 years old now, so we can spoil that, but not the...
Dude, there's a Knights of the Old Republic reference in Rogue One, and it's awesome.
There is?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, did they bring
Yeah.
up Revan or something?
No, you'll see. It's
Okay.
great.
It's so first of all, very good movie. And also just proving again that Star Wars is 100 times better than Star Trek. But that's neither here or there.
Honestly.
What a for no reason.
Now he's just asking
no
for it.
reason. Just like step on the nuts. Just no, don't worry about it. Just look this way.
I love both equally. It's all right.
But we're not here to talk about Star Wars. We are here to do kind of a wrap-up of 2016. This is the third time we're doing this. Isn't that kind of crazy?
Yeah, I know, right?
That
Yeah,
kind of blows my mind.
Our third
Wow.
year-end episode, because we started recording these in, was it like, sort of,
June, July, April, March.
yeah, like spring of 2014, I guess?
It was a month of the year. I know that.
Okay, well,
Sad.
that narrows it down.
Wow,
It was
that
May.
Sure, I
was
thought-
sound
Fucking
logic.
It was May. It was. Wait, that doesn't seem right.
No, I think it was May of last year. We haven't been doing these for 2 years. You're just completely lost track of time. Young parent,
I'm
no
supposed to
concept of
want to start at
time.
math.
Same old, same
I
old.
swear we've done this before.
We did it
Yeah,
last
done it
year.
before.
We did it
Last
once,
year.
not twice.
You
No,
started-
screw you guys. This is a very special second annual.
There we go.
thing is no longer going to be an excuse if you fail like this, my friend. I'm just saying.
And the worst is I believed you for a second.
I know I'm very convincing.
I was
sometimes.
I was trying to elaborate and add detail to that statement, and I'm like, wait a second, something's not right here. I should have just remembered Josh doesn't understand months or years.
Months, years, time.
Time is a concept. created by
So
man,
it's
Time
kind
is
of
a
funny. I'm
flat
actually
circle.
fantastic at minutes. So like up to 45 minutes, I can like almost tell you to the second.
in video games.
But
Okay.
anything beyond that, I can't tell you.
So your brain is larger than a goldfish's, but smaller than a cat's. Got it.
Could we do smaller than a lion? That just sounds cooler than a cat.
Okay, well, it's a cat, well, feline, whatever. Maybe we should talk about
So we are
2016.
here to talk about 2016, right? Yeah. The year.
Siamese cat.
Yeah,
Let's
it was
talk
a
about
year.
cats. Talk about video games.
And it was I don't know, I felt like it was kind of an odd year. When we had originally started planning this, I was back in March, I threw up kind of like a note. It's like, do we want to talk like how 2016 was the greatest year in video games? You know, trying to be super hyperbolic and get a conversation going. And for me, like back when it was originally planned for that, I actually honestly thought it was going to be a ridiculous year. And it kind of, I felt like there's a few high points, and overall it was kind of a blah year for me. What about everybody else?
I think it was a remarkably balanced year for video games, but I would not say it was exceptional. And I say balanced because for me there was a fantastic amount of small indie games, especially some roguelikes, and some small RPGs. Darkest Dungeon is one of my favorite games of the year, and then some kind of mid-tier games. I kind of consider Last Guardian more AA than AAA. And then also some good AAA games as well. But there was nothing, except for a few titles, but it wasn't one of those years of like, these 6 games were transformative. It was like there were some great high moments. Uncharted 4, Overwatch, kind of mid-tier for me was, and it almost feels more AA, and that might sound like heresy, but the most recent Deus Ex game, which I just beat this last week, was really good, but had its flaws. So it was a balanced year. It's a balanced year.
I don't know, man.
Accurate answer, great.
I had an easier time writing a top 5 this year than I did last year, so I feel like at least in terms of video games, 2016 was doing all right, and not.
I thought it was a pretty good year for video games, maybe above average. I don't own a PS4 or Xbox One, so I didn't play a lot, or a Wii U, so I didn't play a lot of the top tier AAA games. But I had good stuff on my handheld the whole year. There was a lot of I'm so impressed with Uncharted 4 and Overwatch, which I can't wait to eventually play. But I'm a little disappointed in 2016 only because the 2 or 3 games I was anticipating the most all got bumped to 2017. So I think 2016 is a good year. 2017 might be a better year, but that's only my hype talking. I don't have evidence for that.
Totally.
And that was kind of the thing is, so I think we started really strong with Uncharted. I think there was some, like, Ratchet was this year as well, which was fantastic.
Dark Souls 3, which I love.
Overwatch, there's Dark Souls for somebody that likes that.
Good God. Yeah, 2 was amazing. Oh.
And that's why I felt like we had a really, really strong beginning of the year, and then the end, with the exception of, I know people were excited for Last Guardian, and hey, we finally got Final Fantasy. I felt like the fall. I actually really like Final Fantasy. I'm very, very happy with it thus far. But it was just basically a shooter fall, and I feel like
I was too.
If we had not lost Persona, if we had not lost Horizon Zero Dawn, there was like a couple games that just started slipping that I feel like it could have been
Persona
something
5,
special.
Horizon Zero Dawn, Mass Effect Andromeda.
Yeah. And some of those technically weren't announced, but everybody just kind of assumed, and I was massively excited for those. So the fall kind of ended up on just like a meh. As much as I do love those shooters, like I was most excited for Persona and Horizon, and those are just keep sliding away. Well, Persona specifically keeps sliding away for me. So I don't know. But
I think those are locked down now.
I'm with you on Horizon. Horizon was my big game for the fall. And for the big reason why I think this year was good but wasn't super exceptional was, I think, because the fall was a little lackluster for me. Now, granted, you guys were talking about FF15. I still haven't played Final Fantasy 15. It's probably going to be the game I play in January while waiting for a couple things like Horizon to show up. But the shooters in the fall were good, so there were great games. I've put a lot of time into Battlefield. It's a ton of fun. I'm still playing a lot of Overwatch. It's weird. It just wasn't. There was so much quality this year, but there just wasn't as much of the single jump out and strangle me with excellence kind of game. Like Witcher 3 was one of those games that just came out and was like almost aggressively in your face. Was like, look how amazing I am. I am so special. And there wasn't that game for me this year, except for maybe Overwatch, kind of, but in a different way. I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird.
I always am ridiculously positive about Sony and PlayStation. I love everything Sony. A large portion of the blame I feel like I've put on the last couple falls is actually on Sony's shoulders.
Yeah, totally.
They've had really, really big titles, and they've just chosen to push them, which they ended up being better, I'm guessing, in all cases.
But it's been a tease.
Yeah, and that it kind of ramps up to that, and then people get out of their way, so then you have these weird lulls because they're expected these great titles. And then, like, this year, it basically seemed like I felt like there was an announcement at one point. You're like, yeah, well, or it may have been last year. They're like, we don't need to have any first-party games because all these third-party games are great, and we're selling anyways. And so
Shuhei Yoshida said that last year. It's like, we're not concerned about it because we're making so much money with just third-party.
Which is really a shame because you look at, and we didn't mention this, but Gears of War 4 came out this fall, and it's again one of those things that Microsoft has been consistent about having these spectacular titles coming out, and it pads the lineup, it makes it seem much better. Where the sad thing is, Sony typically their lineup is a little bit more broad for everybody. They have a little bit of everything. Where Gears, like Xbox 360, originally like the adult console.
Ratchet and Clank is still special in that.
Did Xbox One have more good exclusives than PS4 this year?
First party?
I would say no.
That's hard.
Good is a hard thing to say because a lot of people don't like a lot of them, but they had more first party exclusives this year.
Right. I love Gears.
They had Recore,
but at the end of the day,
other stuff, but
well, I mean,
Recore's crap.
Are Recore and Gears better than Ratchet, Uncharted, and Last Guardian?
Now,
also Titanfall, which was an Xbox One exclusive a few years ago, is now multi-party. I don't
For
think
the record, I don't feel like you can put Last Guardian in there. Last Guardian doesn't belong in this conversation.
it doesn't
Like,
because
that's just not even fair.
what do you
No.
mean?
Like,
It's a Sony
like,
first party
not-
studio. It's
It's
literally
not an
what you're
echelon
talking
that's
about.
like, hey, does this make it better or not? This is a throwaway, like, hey, we owed this to you guys.
It's still very good.
Well, okay. I think it's ridiculous to say that
part of the
Sony is that Sony's
Agreed,
to
Peter's right.
blame.
I would say Last Guardian, the only reason why I might not keep it in the same conversation as the other first parties is more just because there's a weird history attached to it, and because of it. For some people, like just the goggles of loving Ueda-san and that development team kind of gets in the way, but so I just feel like there's a weird rarefied ground with that game for taking 10 years rather than just everything else. But
More what I was referring to is, like, we're talking...
It's a giant block.
Right, it goes to, like, AAA. Like, I would argue that Uncharted and Ratchet are two of the best experiences I've had in a while in games, and Last Guardian... I feel like unless you have a very, very special place in your heart for Eco and Shadow, like, it's just not going to happen. Even people that have that, it sounds like a lot of those
you
people
have
are
to
still
be
not having
willing
it.
to put up with a lot of stress in Last Guardian. Granted, to your point, I feel like if you're a gamer who's played games that are very obtuse, and I don't just mean Eco and Shadow of the Losses, I mean anything going back to the days where that old adage of you played what you were given. But like if you've dealt with crap in games to get through it and get through the slog, then a game like The Last Guardian is not hard to sit
So
through.
if you understand the
And the journey
suffering
is
of a gamer,
incredible.
then maybe okay. I'm not even gonna go there, but I'm really looking forward to Last Guardian. Shadow of the Colossus is one of my all-time favorite games.
You're gonna love it. You're gonna
Surprisingly, for 2016, though, Nintendo was actually kind of killing it. We had a couple early on disappointments in 2016. Fire Emblem Fates, and we've talked about this a lot internally. Fire Emblem Fates bore me to tears.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Peter, but when we were doing our top fives for the website, which should be going up the same week as this recording, I'm not totally sure about that. I was very, very close to making Fire Emblem Fates my biggest disappointment of the year.
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
Well, and I didn't hate Fates. I just liked Awakening more, and didn't really have time to finish it. I will probably go back to it eventually. And I was gonna say, like, and Bravely Second. I know you liked that, Mike. I thought I wasn't fond of it, but
with
again,
Bravely Second, you have to sort of look beyond everything but the class system and the combat, because I think it's one of the best job systems and some of the best turn-based combat ever.
Oh yeah, that's all good. It's a good game. Bravely Default.
Yeah, no, it's like a cake that's all frosting, and when you're eating your piece of cake that's 90% frosting, you realize 15% of the way through, I don't want to eat frosting. I want to eat cake.
This is an analogy I can get behind. But moving on from that, like Tokyo Mirage Sessions ended up being, I think, one of the best RPGs I've played in a very long time. A really good kind of appetizer for Persona 5.
People are very high on.
Pokemon Sun and Moon ended up being were fantastic.
Pokemon Sun and Moon is excellent.
I don't think there was going to be any doubt about that. I haven't played Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse, but I have it on my shelf, staring me in the face.
And people say very good things about that as well.
And
Rob had a lot to say about that on.
I know.
On Random Encounter, he has a lot of words about Apocalypse, but he liked the first 90% of it for sure.
Yeah, I know.
And I got about 20 hours into Dragon Quest VII before other things happened, but I will get back to that eventually, probably, maybe.
I now this is not a secret at all. I adore Dragon Quest 7. I adore Dragon Quest in general, and I thought Dragon Quest 7 was a very, very good Dragon Quest. So I was and I think I mentioned before, I was really surprised at how many good handheld RPGs I played this year. Because
there really were a lot.
Yeah, you have the aforementioned Pokemon Sun Moon, Dragon Quest VII, Trails of Cold Steel 2 came out, and that was terrific. I've only played the beginning of Cold Steel 1, but everyone that likes the Trails games just went gaga over Cold Steel 2, and I don't want to spoil anything because I think this hasn't been posted yet, but Cold Steel 2 is well represented in the RPG Fan Games of the Year awards. So I am chomping at the bit to play that, but I really want to finish Cold Steel 1 first.
The Falcom enthusiasm among the staff has really rubbed off on me.
Yeah, and man, we're creating more every day. It's terrific.
Yes. There also was Severed, if anyone actually played that on Vita, other than
I
me.
didn't-
But
I didn't
Derek
Very
on the
good.
site played it. He talked about it a little bit, and I think it was a Vita game, but I think it's getting an iPad
it's
port.
now gone over to iOS, and it's going to be going to Wii U, I believe,
Cool.
or was planned for Wii U. It might be going to Switch now, but
Yeah, that game uses
it's been going over
touchpad,
to
super
other
smart.
platforms. Yep, and it's very charming, much more intense and mature for Drinkbox than their last games. It's not as goofy.
Yeah, they
It's
did
got kind of
Guacamelee a couple
shit.
years ago, right?
Fantastic. Yep, Guacamelee, and then before that they did Tales from Outer Space, Mutant Blobs, a bunch of Vita games. That's where they've kind of made their bread and butter as a company,
okay.
and expanded off of that. Like with Guacamelee, started with Vita and PS4 or PS3, and then expanded elsewhere. But their Drinkbox is a fantastic little indie studio that just does very high quality games. They're just not long experiences, so you can beat it in a weekend or a day. But Severed is really well made and a fantastic little handheld RPG. So if anyone's looking for something to kill like a day with, that's a easy suggestion.
But it seems like in terms of like high profile experiences, like maybe some of the ones we were really looking forward to got pushed back or just didn't come out this year. But Final Fantasy 15 was still one of the best gaming experiences I've had in a while. But that's here
Sure.
there.
And we've mentioned Persona 5 and Mass Effect and Horizon Zero Dawn. Cosmic Star Heroine has got pushed back another year, and
I want that game.
I've wanted to play that thing since 2014, and I put money into the Kickstarter. East Lacrimosa of Dana came out this year in Japan, and we don't know when the West is getting that. Tokyo Xanadu got confirmed for 2017.
By Axis of all people.
Yeah, it's super weird that XC develops every single Falcom game, but Axis is picking up Tokyo Xanadu. That's and XC just published Xanadu Next, a previous Xanadu game earlier this year, which is another pretty good RPG that came out. Robert Fenner played that one and reviewed it for the site, and he liked it. So there's a lot of good games that came out in 2016, but to me, the shadow hanging over it is that a bunch of my most hyped games got pushed to 2017, and a lot of the best games of 2016 were genres I'm not really into. Like I don't really play very many shooters, and I don't play much, and I don't really play much horror either. And Inside is making a lot of end of year lists around the internet. So this 2016 wasn't my year, but there was a lot of good stuff to play, I feel. And I got a new Phoenix Wright and a new Dragon Quest, so of course I'm happy. And but
27
yeah, in 2017 might be the real deal. And I did mention earlier in this episode that I don't own a PS4, but that changed literally 2 days ago. it's
I was gonna say.
Yeah, no, it's still packaged. I haven't opened it yet because I wanna. I have a really
when
busy.
you finally play Last of Us, you're going to have yourself a day.
I have Uncharted 4 and Last of Us Remastered to break it in. So
good choice.
But that's going to happen in the new year. I have stuff I want to finish and work on in 2016, and playing that in the first week of January is going to be a gift to myself.
Yeah.
Talking about... sorry. Go ahead, Peter.
No, never. I was just going to say I can finally join in the Lost Odyssey podcast when we ever get around to that, because I have the game now.
Right, and
Nice.
are you playing it on an Xbox One backward compatible?
On Xbox One, yeah. So
Right.
so the load times are like non-existent. It's great. Because it's not reading from a disc anymore, and it's just installed on the system. So
and the processor is good enough to really just have it be smooth.
Yeah, so it's really nice. I like it. It's a bit jarring coming up to that after FF15, but I like it so far.
What I was going to say is that you're talking about there were a lot of high-profile delays, but two of my favorite games from this year were personal favorite RPGs that got remastered. In one being Valkyria Chronicles, which made me so happy to get back out there into the world after its small PS3 success, and then also Odin Sphere, Lifthrasir, that whole version, because that was a game that when it came out on PS2, played the I gotta be careful, the hell out of, play the heck out of it. Shucks, howdy. And that's a game
Gosh
I
darn
was
it.
so excited to see. get out there again.
VanillaWare's art direction is
Oh,
so
I love
incredible.
it so much.
And their
Noir, Odin Sphere, all their games are so beautiful.
that mecha game that they teased a while ago is coming out in 2017, isn't it?
Yes, apparently, which makes me so happy. I just keep hoping people give them enough money
shoot.
to survive.
I feel
'Cause
terrible.
their 2D art is unparalleled.
What was that giant robots game they're making called?
I don't even remember.
I don't remember either.
Legitimately, because the second you mentioned it is the first time I remember that thing existed in a very long time.
Okay,
So I'm gonna
I know
look this up while we talk.
because right now the staff is composing the most anticipated 2017 in the background in the site, and I remember seeing that game again appear on that list, but I forget its name. Oh, it's escaping me. It's gonna bother me the whole night.
13 Sentinels.
That's it. Okay, sure.
Aegis Rim. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, Aegis. I thought for some reason Aegis. I thought it was called Aegis, but I just.
Or I guess technically, since it's being published by Atlas, maybe we should say Aegis for the sake of Persona 3.
Maybe. Well, it's
Not to get off topic, but have you seen the artwork for that new RPG they're teasing?
yeah. They
That
sh-
shit
No,
looks
I
a
missed
lot
that. I
like
didn't see the-
Aegis.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's sort of an elfin woman. She has long ears, but like it looks like a swords and armor fantasy RPG, and it looks great.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that what? How hilarious would it be if it turns out it's 13 Sentinel?
No.
I know, it's not at all.
No,
No,
they-
it's a new original Atlas title.
there's a name for it.
I guess.
Yeah, there's a name for it out there somewhere, but it's only a day or two ago is when they revealed it. But that looks good. There's a lot of stuff to be excited for in 2017. That's for sure. But for me, 2017 looks more interesting than 2016 for a handful of reasons. But yeah, I'm not gonna throw any shade on 2016. It was a good year for games.
Yeah, why don't we actually go into like our favorite moments or like our favorite games? Like we can give like our top one, maybe like 2 runner-ups or just like honorable mentions or something, and just kind of roll through there.
Oh boy. Okay.
All right.
If I'm putting everybody in the spot, I can go first.
Yeah,
Guest, but
Go
Yeah,
ahead,
yeah.
Josh.
He says with a smile.
no, I
Go.
that's the whole point of the podcast. I kind of
No, I
figured
know.
everybody would be ready.
No, I know. I just legitimately the second you said it went. What do I go first? Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, so we talked about this before. It's hard to play other games other than this podcast when you're on the podcast consistently.
Mhm.
And then also, I like playing a lot of other things other than RPGs. So then, with kind of regular coverage of this, I kind of need palate cleansers outside of this. So I actually really didn't play much games that are covered by the site outside of this podcast. But there wasn't, in all honesty, and I'm sure people will get upset about it, there wasn't a lot that came out this year that super caught my eye.
Didn't speak to you.
Yeah. But for me, my number one game of the year is absolutely Uncharted 4.
Right.
We've talked about this before. I love that series, and I think Uncharted 4 just kind of puts a perfect end cap on that whole series. And
It's a beautiful love letter to the whole journey of that series.
right, and that's kind of. I feel like a lot of times there's sequels and they're trying to do things, or they think you liked it for a certain reason, and I felt like the whole time they just understood, and it was just a perfect everything. And there's so many like important touchstones for gaming in like my gaming life that have kind of tied to Uncharted. So it was an emotional journey on top of everything else for me. Beyond that, it's 2 games that we've already talked about a lot, or kind of at least mentioned a lot. Ratchet and Clank, and then Overwatch. I love the Ratchet series. That was fantastic. That I thought, again, I just hope it did well enough that there's gonna be more. And then we've talked about Overwatch a boatload, but that's my kind of like my gaming junk food of the year. It's always there, and I'm always kind of snacking on it here or there.
Sometimes you need that game.
For me,
Yeah,
my
and I think
my
that's-
junk food game is Heroes of the Storm, but I get what you mean.
Well, my true at the end of the day, really, really honest to
Right,
God, John
uh-huh.
showed his Hearthstone.
Yeah, I was trying to bait that a little bit.
I was say it's
I figured we wouldn't bring it up. I
Sure.
wish I should. I'm going to, at this point this year, I'm going to mark how many wins I have, and then see how many I can get in the next year, because I'm pretty sure I had over 1,000 wins this past year. I think I'm closer to 2,000 wins in that game, which is just a crap load of amount of time for that.
Just all the other games you could have played. All of them.
Well, thankfully my employers don't listen to this. I do a lot of it at work. It's also, a lot of it is 15 minutes or 10 minutes, so it's easy to do, like, in between doing stuff for a kid, or like a kid's like off wandering around doing stuff.
Right.
But he seems like he might not kill himself, so I can have some fun on my own time. Yeah, and so that the sad thing about that though is I kind of viewed it as, all right, well, I can't remember what Overwatch came out in, but it's early, like May. And it's like, all right, well, my year's done.
Yep.
And that was kind of disappointing, but I have to give just a really, really huge honorable mention to Final Fantasy 15. I was still debating up until the moment that it was released whether or not I should actually buy it. I still remember seeing Versus 13, the trailer, the first time, and losing my mind, being so crazy excited for it, and then somehow actually stayed, for the most part, excited the entire journey of that development. And then it got to like the last little bit, and I was like, I don't know, I feel like this isn't going to work out. And I'm really, really happy I ended up pre-ordering it. Amazon screwed up and gave it to me a day late anyways. Screw you guys. Definitely with everybody else, like, oh, I got it a week early, and I'm like, yeah, mine's going to be a day late, even though they promised it.
I got mine a week late.
Somehow Steph got hers like 5 days early or something, because
I think a store broke street date or something.
Yeah, I think it was
from Amazon, I thought.
No, she got hers from a Canadian EB Games.
Oh,
but yeah,
that still exists.
Someone's getting fired.
In Canada, it's still EB Games and not GameStop.
But I was actually really happy because Steph was actually the main reason that I ended up pre-ordering it. I kind of talked to her a very small amount, and I saw everything that she was saying, and it was just enough to push me over. And I can't put it in like my top list of games. Like, it doesn't break in my top 3 because I haven't played enough of it. But thus far, everything I've played I've enjoyed. There's a disconnect between what I wanted Versus 13 to be and what this actually is. But it feels kind of unfair to boil that down.
And building on that, Josh, I finished it the other day, and I'm not going to get into any specifics or anything. I liked it over. I really loved the game. I have there are issues with it, but putting aside that kind of burden of expectation that we had for Versus, it's evident playing 15 that there are so many like drafts and rewrites of this script that kind of got like hobbled together. It's a miracle it comes together at all. Like, and
yes.
It is that the game is as fun as it is nothing short of astounding to me. But I loved playing it. Like, absolutely adored it.
Yeah, and it came late because I needed something a couple months ago, but it was I've been in such a lull, and all I keep doing is staring off into February and April for Horizon and Persona, and I was like, there's nothing in between for me.
Horizon comes out on my birthday, so I might make that a present to myself now that I have a PS4.
So many games coming out. So many games.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and that's this was the great just in between for me, so I'm ecstatic about that. What now, Chris? Are you actually excited? Mine no longer blank.
Yeah, no. I can give you my list now. Thanks so much. For the delay.
No,
you're the best.
I can keep just kind of rambling about something else if you want.
I would also have my number 1 game at Uncharted 4. It's a series that I truly love, and I think the way that game plays on its own as just a standalone, outside of the series as a whole, I think it's a great game. What it does within the series and how it plays on, or plays up a lot of the relationships with characters that I think haven't been as focused on in 2 and 3, or of course even Uncharted Golden Abyss. The backstory, a lot of the stuff they fleshed out there, even though sometimes if it felt like it was a little forced. Then there were some great story moments that kind of explained away why those moments might have felt forced or a little bizarre. It's such a well-made game. It didn't go for as huge of a set piece as you might have gotten in Uncharted 2 or 3. I think that was actually a good thing. I really liked a lot of the quiet moments in that game. The conversations, which they took directly out of Last of Us style, where you approach whoever you're with and press triangle and have a little dialogue. I thought it was so smart. And it really allowed a lot of people to kind of appreciate the journey they've been on with these characters over the past 4 games. And it's just Naughty Dog as artists, they're impeccable designers, and it is a game just like with GTA 5 when it first came out, where you can obsess over the tiniest little animation of getting into a car and just realize that there's no one else, because there's usually not a budget. People aren't given a budget like Naughty Dog is given, who are going to create that kind of detailed work. It's really, really special. My second game would actually be Overwatch. I know, Josh, you were saying, it's fun, throwaway, popcorn fun. I think that game is just, again, it's just a perfectly
not
made
throwaway
game.
fun.
I know. You were talking about like the popcorn
more like short time fun than throwaway fun.
And I agree. It's quick and it's fun. God, I think it is the most excellent team-based shooter loop, and it especially, it's a hard thing if you're solo queuing, if you're playing alone. I can see the burnout. I'm lucky that I have a very good group of people. I can always assume that one of them is going to be on, and that is a game just like we just did Diablo 3, and we obsessed over the glory of that loot cycle. The gameplay loop and the kind of endorphin rush that you get playing Overwatch is something I've never gotten out of another shooter before, and I've played a lot of multiplayer hours, especially over the last 7 years of my life in shooters. That's usually my multiplayer outlet. And I was stunned by how much Overwatch took a hold of me. Granted, I also play I'll play a lot of the heroes, but I main Tracer, and you often feel like you are seeing the zeros and ones of the game, and you're a step faster than everyone else, so it's pretty special to destroy everyone with her. But good God, that game is just so well made. And so charming and fantastic.
You brought up the term gameplay loop a couple times, and gameplay loop refers to the basic repeated actions that you do over the course of a game. In an RPG, the gameplay loop might be the battle system. In Overwatch or Short or a MOBA, the gameplay loop is a single match. And when the gameplay loop of a game is really compelling, then that's a game that you want to just be playing over and over forever. And Overwatch is so like beautifully wound tight and so fun and well designed in its basic gameplay loops that I think it could have the legs to be
very big for a long time.
Yeah, big for a long time. And again, it came out in May, and we've already had a couple map updates and 2 new characters added, bringing the roster from 21 to 23. So if Blizzard continues supporting it that way, I mean, I don't know how long the tail on Overwatch could be. I'm so impressed with it. And I mean, you mentioned. I think the only character we've mentioned is Tracer, but
they're all so unique and special.
They're very, very great.
The cast is terrific. I am so impressed with how diverse and fun and funny the cast is. It's like the right balance of takes itself seriously and doesn't and is comfortable with humor and a little silliness.
And the second someone becomes unbalanced or useless within the meta of the game, they almost patch in something to make that player usable again. Symmetra being the greatest example.
Yeah,
that's a character that no one played going into October and September, and now she's super useful again. They care. They don't want anyone to fall behind.
Yeah, Blizzard's usually pretty good about balance and tuning, but I mean, with exceptions, like the Hearthstone meta, I don't even want to try to explain. But so far, Overwatch feels fun and balanced.
Yeah, Blizzard. I joked about this before on a different podcast, but Blizzard doesn't make games anymore. They make platforms that just happen to be game franchises. And Overwatch to me seems like it's gonna be around for a long time, long time. And that's, by the way, the most obvious statement of the year too. So let's not pretend. that
So
was something special
Peter,
to
do
say.
you
That's
have?
game 2. So go, Peter.
I would join in the Overwatch love if I'd played it, but I've been seriously considering getting a PlayStation Plus subscription just so I can, because it looks fantastic. I don't even like shooters. I think it looks fantastic.
Yeah,
That's I think what's so special about it though is you
I
don't
don't
actually have
like
to be fantastic at shooters to be good at it.
I don't like shooters either, and I am in on the Overwatch hype.
But as for games I played this year, we already talked FF15. Turned out to not quite what everyone hoped for, but still a really good game. World of Final Fantasy really surprised me with how much I enjoyed that game. The Chibi FF game.
Mm-hmm.
The one where you stack monsters on top of other monsters.
Yeah, that. You play it, you start playing it, and it's like, oh, haha, this is funny and cute, and it makes little FF inside jokes, and there's fourth wall breaks, and I want to murder the mascot character and like string him up by his own intestines, but
That's specific and dark. Okay.
Oh my God, Tama is the reason I switched the game to the Japanese vocal track, and even then she's insufferable. But what I wasn't expecting was for the game in the second half, it actually takes a surprisingly dark turn into legitimate storytelling, and like I wasn't expecting that like World of Final Fantasy to actually impact me emotionally. It's still a simple story, but it ends up being pretty well told, and it was one of my bigger gaming surprises this year. It was a really good game. And I mentioned earlier too, Tokyo Mirage Sessions. That was another one where it was like they announced it, and I don't think anyone really knew quite what to make of a Shin Megami Tensei Fire Emblem crossover game that was themed around pop idols and featured robot Pegasus Knights. But that too turned out to be a really, really fantastic game. And Tokyo Mirage in general, like if you took the weapon triangle from Fire Emblem, the press turn once more system from SMT and Persona, and then they like made sweet love to each other, and the result was this absolutely phenomenal combat system where your entire party can join in on these epic chain attacks, and they actually do like their like silly like little duo arts where they actually perform songs throughout the game, and they'll actually perform some of those songs in battle, and like it's hilarious and entertaining, and I can't praise that game enough. It like with all these rumored ports coming to the Switch, Tokyo Mirage might be the only reason that I hold on to my Wii U.
Right on. Well, I guess it's my turn, and since I mentioned before I mostly played handhelds this year, I'll get into two handheld games that I really love for sort of opposite reasons. I mentioned the Dragon Quest VII remake, and part of the reason I am so happy I finally finished that game, it took me about 70 hours, but I did it, was that I couldn't get through the first, say, 5 or 10 hours of the PS1 version. It was so painfully slow, and it came out in 2000 when I was, when I was playing these really awesome medium-paced RPGs like Skies of Arcadia and Final Fantasy IX and Final Fantasy X. Being released at the same time as all those other games, it could not hold my attention. But I adore the Dragon Quest series, and as I started to play all of them through the 2000s, 7 was sort of the one that kept eluding me, and I finally got to play a version of Dragon Quest 7 that was more palatable to me a few months ago, and I loved it. It's a really, really good Dragon Quest story. The characters are interesting, and they can be a little bland if you don't press B a lot in towns. But there's a it's a fun cast. The storyline gets better the longer you play, and when all the pieces fit together, it's terrific. The class system's good. There's a lot of depth to the combat and options you have. It's a really good Dragon Quest game. I wouldn't maybe recommend it over 5 or 8 or even 4, but it's a very, very good one. I'm glad I finally got to play it. And the other one, instead of sort of fulfilling my expectations and being a game that I've always wanted to play, Pokemon Sun and Moon upset the status quo of Pokemon in a way that make it the most exciting Pokemon game ever made.
It really did.
Because Pokemon X and Y were good, to my understanding, but they were also regular-ass Pokemon games. They were the Pokemon that you know and love, but updated visually and technically, and I guess maybe even socially for 2014 is when they came out, right? Am I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't do much for me.
Yeah, so XY represented definitely a technical upgrade, and were all right Pokemon games on their own. But Sun and Moon have so many meaningful changes for the series. They HMs are a thing of the past. Regular Pokemon gyms are a thing of the past.
That's exciting.
They redesign and reboot Pokemon from 20 years ago with new types and approaches and looks. Instead of being everything you expect from a Pokemon game, it's at the same time definitely a Pokemon game, but definitely making all of these changes that just make it surprising the whole way through. And my favorite thing about it is it does things. I'm going to use one example that may be a minor spoiler, but it does things that I sort of wish I could do in older ones. There's a challenger mode where after you beat the game and you become the Pokemon champion, you're allowed to take on challengers to your throne. And
that's a feature I've been waiting for them to do for years.
And the yeah, it's crazy. And you meet, and your challengers are, Pokemon players that you meet that you've met throughout the game. Like your rival challenges you, and I think maybe a former gym leader challenges you. But also one of your challengers is a youngster that's the first NPC you fight. Like in minute 10, he comes back as a challenger in hour 30. It does so many things that seem so different for a Pokemon and seem so right for Pokemon that it is. I think it's the Pokemon game that everyone should play if they have even at least a passing interest in it.
Do you still have to trade Pokemon to have them evolve?
Yeah.
I think. Well, there's only 4 Pokemon that have done that ever, and I think those 4 that is still how you make them evolve.
It's too bad.
I'm okay with it.
I think there's more than 4, but
No.
Sun and Moon was real good. Yeah, loved it.
Sun and Moon was probably the game that made me the most angsty. I'm not even sure that's the right word. I went back and forth even more than I kind of explained, like me going back and forth between Final Fantasy and 15, whether or not I should get it or not. Pokemon has such a special place in my heart. We've talked about that on the Pokemon podcast. Like it's my first in so many regards.
That Pokemon podcast was right around a year ago.
Yeah, it's crazy. It was after our second annual end of the year podcast.
First annual.
And we touched on all of that, but I always want to capture that that specialness that it had when you were younger. And for me, I know I'm kind of in the minority for sure, at least people on this podcast. It struggles in the most recent couple, and I had been really excited when I had been playing X and Y because everybody said they made all these improvements, and they did, but there was still just something missing. And kind of tangentially watching people talk about Sun and Moon, I feel like they fixed the last couple problems I was having with it, but I'm also not ready to have my heart broken again.
Sun and Moon trims away so much of the fat that was holding Pokemon back and does so many new things that surprised me that I think it's the new standard. It set a new bar for what is literally the best-selling RPG franchise in history. So I think it's worth it.
Yeah, we'll see. Someday.
So what was the rest of your list, Mike?
Oh, well, I see. I did Dragon Quest VII. I did Pokemon Sun and Moon. What's something we haven't talked about? Hey, you know what also is a thing where you hunt monsters or catch monsters and they evolve?
What?
Digimon?
Yeah, there was a really good Digimon RPG that came out earlier this year.
What about Monster Rancher?
Monster Rancher was super neat because I could put in my Green Day CDs and they would turn into weird eye monsters. Still not really sure how they worked that out.
I loved Monster Rancher.
Look,
I took one look at the artwork from Monster Rancher and ran away.
I gotta ask, did any of you guys actually play Dark Souls this year?
No.
Oh, wow.
I can't play Souls. I'm too bad at video games.
Can I have my Dark Souls 2
2 is
minutes?
fantastic.
No. You had your Dark Souls 2 minutes like 8 podcasts ago.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
So yeah, but no,
should-
Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth is a really, really good RPG that made me.
Wait, I was right?
Yes.
yeah, dude.
I was being super flippant.
No. There was a Digimon RPG that came out around the middle of the year. I think I would guess early summer, but I could be wrong about that. I didn't get it until it was on sale later. But it's Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth is a really fun Digimon RPG. There's detective work. There's a lot less catching and more evolving and more training than Pokemon. And it's a different, the gameplay loop is a little differently paced than it is in Pokemon. And it's less regimented. It's more like a RPG story that goes a variety of places instead of having obvious goals like gym leaders in Elite Four and badges. But it's really interesting, and if you even have a passing interest in Digimon and you own a Vita or a PS3, or I think it was a Vita or PS4. I forget.
PS4, yeah.
Yeah, I played
PS4.
it on the Vita. But if you have a Vita or a PS4 and a passing interest in Digimon, I think it's really worth it. I think it was the game of the year for one of our co-workers at RPG Fan. But a lot
I
of
actually
people
forgot
really like
that came out this year. But I remember when that first came out, a lot of people were super excited for it.
I haven't played it yet, but I remember I saw the Devil Survivor artist had done the art for that and was I'm down.
sweet.
Oh right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Durarara. Yeah.
It's a strikingly colorful game. The monsters are all cool. They all start cute and end up terrifying, which is the course for a lot of these. But I didn't finish it because there's just too many video games, but I really liked what I played, and I know a lot of people love that thing, and I definitely recommend it.
Mike, have you seen footage for Digimon World Next Order, the game that's coming out next year?
No, I know that Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth is in the Digimon World series, and there's the United States has only gotten some of those.
Yeah, so there's another one coming out next year called Digimon World Next Order that we've been writing some stories about, so I've had a little bit of exposure to it.
Oh, okay.
It looks weird.
Sweet. I mean, I like
weird?
this. I liked Cyber Sleuth enough that I am. I did a lot of monster games this year.
It's a completely different style of gameplay. Like I am really confused every time I see footage of it. I'm like, what is this? It's like semi-real time, arena based. What?
Yeah,
I
you
don't
have
even
my
know.
attention now. I'll have to look into that. I was surprised at how much I liked Cyber Sleuth, but it had so much positive word of mouth that I really wanted to try it. And I don't know. I didn't finish it, so I didn't include it on the list I wrote for RPG Fan. But I'm really, really excited to play more of that thing.
Nice. That's awesome.
So quick change of gears a little bit. Now we've talked about our favorite game experiences of the year. Do any of us have a favorite particular retro encounter episode or retro encounter experience of the year, whether listening or recording?
All the good episodes were the ones that I weren't on.
Okay, no disagreement from me, but I mean, what was your favorite anyway?
Cold as ice.
Yeah, well, they talk a lot.
I still kind of maintain some of my favorite episodes for these are these more off-kilter ones. So like kind of the end of the year, and then I really enjoy doing the conference, like responding to conferences. So the we did for the Game Awards, we did for BlizzCon, we did for PSX. But I like the structure of those a little bit better sometimes. Somehow we actually stay more on pace, like on point with what we're supposed to talk about.
Well, I mean, for those episodes, I think for all of them, we basically had a list of stuff we had to get through, but we had a lot to talk about, and those were all good discussions. I enjoyed recording both of those as well.
My favorite podcast was probably The Essential Town. I know that one got violent.
Yeah.
Wait,
But it was
Mike,
a
you said I
lot-
wasn't allowed to talk about it. Why is Peter allowed to talk about it?
I told you weren't allowed to talk about it. Peter, is your name Josh?
Last I checked, no.
All right, Peter, go for it. Podcast that shall not be named. Let's name it.
The podcast that shall not be named, Lord Podcast Voldemort, was a violent undertaking. Many revelations were had about the gaming tastes of different staff members, myself included.
The salt flowed.
And much salt was flowed and poured on open wounds, and it was nasty. But
I heard a rumor that was going to be an annual thing as well.
No comment.
But it was a lot of fun to do. I really liked the especially the first episode. I think the paring it down and kind of discussing it, that was a fun process. And I enjoy. I rarely honestly listen to the podcast that I'm on, but I re-listened to both parts recently, and just I think that one came together really well. So it felt like a moment where we could be proud of our work, and that's always feels good.
It was one of those things that I listened to a crap ton of podcasts, and I've heard other people do it. And like we mentioned, even I think when we started, that some of it was kind of based off of like the work we'd seen with Giant Bomb, and they always kind of mention the huge undertaking and how stressful it is, how they just feel exhausted afterwards. And you're like, oh yeah, okay, sure, whatever. You guys are kind of just saying that. It was one of those things. Even spacing it out, I think there was a week downtime in between. It was a lot. I have a huge amount of respect for people that do those types of podcasts every year, because there was some tension occasionally, and there's some stress, and there was just some very, very, very long conversations. So it was definitely very different than anything else we've ever done.
Yes, it was definitely different. In a way, I mean, part of what I like being on Retro is sort of, it's sometimes I've been forced out of my gaming comfort zone playing games for Retro Encounter. I remember when we were recording Essential 10, there was such passion from Marcos talking about
Steamboat Chronicles?
Talking about Steambot Chronicles, and and Davey talking about Etrian Odyssey, that it actually got me to trying those games out, and I wouldn't have done it otherwise. So just like things like that, and hearing the diverse opinions of the 5 panelists on it, that including me, was a really interesting experience, and got me second guessing certain games. Like, maybe do I want to go and try something I've steadfastly refused to try for a decade? I don't know. I'm not going to make any promises, but I really enjoyed recording those as well.
I almost want to do it again just because I know we can do a better job with it. But I think that was ultimately the most interesting thing, is we all come in with like these opinions that sometimes we didn't even really have any like background to be able to back it up with. And to pick and choose our fights, where it's like, I felt so strongly about X game, and all of a sudden I'm not willing to fight for it because I need to have this game get through, or Peter screwed us over once again, so we need to make sure he gets Zelda off the list, or something like that. It was just weird kind of compromises between other individuals, and then also compromises with yourself of what you're willing to live with. I thought it was super interesting.
It was interesting.
Damn you, Peter. Damn you.
It was a process, that's for sure.
A process. Oh, I love it. Spot on.
There's a great Philadelphia 76ers joke I could make right now, but I'm gonna pass.
Talking about practice?
No, I'm talking about the process.
I'm talking about practice, not a game.
Not a game.
Practice. I still think, although that was a lot of fun in a weird, twisted sort of way, I think the most fun podcast I've been on all of the year was South Park.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say, because I was not part of the Essential 10, did not experience the stress. South Park was a blast. It was rated R. It was fun.
You can have my spot next time, Chris.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It sounded like quite the trial. I might.
Yeah, but in a way, South Park was the opposite, because but by the end of Essential 10, I was getting tired and just ready to start agreeing with people just so it would end. But with South Park, I mean, the 3 of us were so enthusiastic on that podcast, and it
was so much fun.
And like both playing the game and talking about it was just so much fun that I think I mentioned this on the podcast, but right when we finished recording the first episode, I went and finished the game that night and played it for like 4 straight hours afterwards.
Yeah, man, that game is special. It's just pure childlike glee.
Yeah.
It's a great game. It's a great
And it's
game.
an absolute must-play for...
About.
If you like South Park, it's an absolute must-play.
I think it's an absolute must-play if you like RPGs.
It almost feels like it shouldn't be this good, and it's so good. You got to play it.
And that was the great thing for me is going into it, I had heard so many good things, but still you kind of like, all right, well, whatever. And it caught me so off guard with how funny it was.
Can't be that funny.
Enjoyable.
No.
Exactly. Yeah, we had a really good 5 weeks because I think right before we started South Park, we did Persona 4 as well.
And yeah, I think I have 2 favorite episodes of the year, and one of them was the Persona 4 episode because with the Persona
4.
Yeah, with the Persona 4 episode and with the Falcom Encounter episode a few months ago, it was just people that were very knowledgeable and very enthusiastic about that game or games and sharing personal experiences and just gushing about it, which is
again pure joy.
Yeah, again, it's I think the most interesting retro experiences for me are the ones where I am out of my comfort zone, but secretly I just love sitting in my comfort zone and thriving. Because, I mean, like Persona 4 and Falcom RPGs, and I guess also to a degree the Final Fantasy VI episode I recorded with Alana. It was just so much fun doing all of it because it was, it was refreshing just doing nothing but talk about games that I love already without the burden of having to play them in a month.
Which is why you like games.
That's the double-edged sword. Off the air, Mike and I have talked about this a bunch about format and structure of how these episodes and games should be covered, and
we still haven't figured it out.
No, it's a surprise. But it's one of those things that, and some of my favorite moments, and it didn't happen as much this year, but definitely my favorite moments of the first year was actually Peter, which I'm happy you're here for it. Like, you playing through Tactics for the first time, or experiencing Castlevania for the first time, and listening to your frustration or your awe about this, or just you're just dumbfounded about this or that, and having those first moments and being able to have those on air is so interesting, and it's so exciting, and so refreshing, and I think it's fun to be part of those conversations. And I think it's fun, also probably more fun to listen to. But
the Tactics episode was a lot of fun.
Yeah, but as a person that's recording, for stress for your life and whatnot, going into a Persona, we're hey, we've all played Persona 4 multiple times, and we know this game inside and out. Don't have to rush through it for a month. Same thing happened with Diablo 3 for most of us.
Yeah, for Persona 4, part of the reason we made that as a bonus round was because none of us wanted the burden of having to play a 90-hour game in a month. That would have been unfair.
But then you get that whole extra deeper layer of we know all the secrets, where if you're playing for the first time, you don't have the chance to find all these, and so we're still trying to figure it out. But I think a lot of times for us recording it, it's more fun to be on those when you've already played it, because there is a stress of I'll never forget, Peter, you trying to beat. I think you actually did it while we were recording. You're still trying to beat one of the bosses in Tactics.
Yeah, it was a Y-graph. It was that fight.
the chapter 3 1v1 Y-graph that gets out of hand.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, it is one of those things that's it's recording gold, but at the same time, the number of times that I have hey, we're recording in the morning on a Saturday, and I go to bed on a Friday and I wake up at 2 because I have to bang out the last couple hours to make sure I'm ready for this recording. Or I'm literally playing it while we're doing the prep for the show. I'm I'm watching the ending or the credits of this to see the last couple of moments.
For Final Fantasy X, The World Ends With You, Deus Ex, probably more than I'm forgetting, I finished the game within 2 hours of starting the recording for the last episode of it.
Yeah. I've lost count of the number of times I have finished a game within 20 minutes of us actually recording.
For that reason, one of the kind of different podcasts from the year that I really dug was Juniper's Knot. I really liked that month of just doing those one-offs of smaller games, and we're doing the roguelike stuff soon. But it was so great to just have those, just play one of these small things, get a chip. We did 3 games that month, and just. Yep. Yeah, that game was great, and I don't really dig on a lot of visual novels, and that one was fantastic.
To the Moon
Really?
was the same deal for me.
Yeah, I was on
That's
this.
fun.
I was on the podcast with Peter.
awesome.
I did To the Moon that month, and it was refreshing. That was nice. I like that game a
That was
lot.
a lot of fun.
Yeah. I think overall, like, I think it was a good year of the podcast. We had a lot of weird, like, side diversion stuff. We covered a lot of different grounds. Like, I got to play Danganronpa for the first time. We had a bunch of indie games. We finally played old games because apparently we only played games for like the last year, which I always see in the comments. So we actually played some old stuff. We covered Final Fantasy. Like, you guys actually convinced me on Final Fantasy 6. I am going to try Final Fantasy 6 at some point this year.
Good. Do it.
Yeah, and then I think one of the things which I'm sure listeners who actually listen all the time enjoyed, we switched to doing weekly podcasts instead of almost occasionally all the time podcasts.
Yeah, we made that transition to weekly right around 6 months ago. I think it was around the time of the Persona 4 podcast, maybe the week before that. We started doing them every week, and we don't record every week. Sometimes we'll record like 4 in a weekend and then space them out from a week. But I don't think we've missed a week yet.
No, we have not, since we decided to actually actively do it. And I think one of the great things for that is I've really liked kind of the off-the-wall ideas, or just like, not even really off-the-wall, but like, 'cause a lot of the stuff that we've recorded hasn't been off-the-wall yet, but like, you look at the stuff that we have in the docket, and all of a sudden we have these really interesting ideas come up because we need to have content, and we obviously can't play a game every week to be able to talk about it.
Yeah, we have some really good games and some real weird bonus round ideas coming in the pipeline.
And that gets me excited for 2017. It gets me excited for our 4th annual end of the year podcast for Retro.
That would be in 2018.
I'm getting to you to agree with me at some point.
Which one of us was a math major, Josh? Because the answer may
was.
surprise you.
I was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You'd think you'd be
Shocker.
better with integers.
So like we were talking about some of our favorite moments, and some of those are kind of more of the not planned moments or not planned podcasts, and it makes me really excited to look back at next year and kind of look at some of the craziness that comes out of the podcast. But I guess you guys are going to have to wait for that for next year. I think that's kind of it's a nice little bow on 2016. We would love to hear what everybody's favorite games were. I'm sure there's going to be a slew of games we did not mention, and we'd love to hear those in the comments. As always, you can go onto the boards at rpgfan.com. You can send us emails at retro@rpgfan.com. You can go onto Twitter and harass the people at rpgfan, which is great because I'm not in charge of that, so you can harass them all you want. Or you can seek us out on our personal Twitter accounts. I'm at JD Curry. Mike is...
At The Real Monsoon.
Peter is...
At I Have Fury.
And Chris is...
At Chris Gebauer.
And I'm gonna do one quick aside, Josh. This podcast is being released in the middle of a week where there's a bunch of interesting end of the year stuff on RPG Fan. It's the first week of January, even though we're recording this in December. So you'll be able, readers and listeners will be able to hear other podcasts and individual editor top fives. I know I submitted one. I think Chris and Peter also did. Is that right?
Yes.
I did not. I didn't get to it.
Oh shoot! I'm sorry, man.
It's my bad.
It's my bad. And also the genre awards and the overall RPG of the year stuff from RPG Fans. So you can find all of that on the main website.
Yeah, so if you guys usually only listen to our podcast, thank you. But make sure to go out there and seek out the other work. There's a lot of really good stuff at the end of the year. It's a really exciting time for all the editors and contributors for RPG Fan.
And also the week after this, there's going to be a big, long, most anticipated of 2017 feature. And a month or two after that, whenever Marcos finishes his hours and hours and hours of audio editing, there's going to be a Music of the Year feature for 2016.
Yeah, so there's lots and lots of good stuff out there, so make sure that while you still listen to us, because we're great, make sure to go seek out all that other great content. But yeah, in the next couple months we have some roguelikes, we have some Dragon Quest, we have some not Zeldas, we have some Shadow Hearts.
Those are a couple months away, but roguelikes are definitely...
That's why I said in the next couple months.
Oh, okay. I did the thing where I only listened to about half of what you say anyway.
I know.
My bad.
No, that's fine. We're all used to it. That's why
did you mention the Dragon Quest yet?
I literally just said that.
Oh, okay.
I guess since we're going to keep talking about Dragon Quest. In the past, we've had you guys vote on what we're going to cover. For our Dragon Quest month, we picked Dragon Quest 5, 6, 7, and 8 for you guys to vote on, and whatever you guys vote on and decide we'll ultimately play for that month. So that poll, I guess, now that we mentioned it, we should actually put it up. So expect to see that up soon. Please vote. I know at the very least Mike's super excited for us to cover Dragon Quest. So
I don't care what wins the poll. I'm going to be on that episode, and I'm going to be so excited.
We'll see you in 2017.
Happy, happy, happy.
Bye, everybody.